10 o'clock. Welcome everyone to this open Q&A for the Building a Second Brain course. My name is Tiago Forte and this is my partner, Lauren Valdez. I'll let them introduce themselves in a minute. I'm also joined by Will Mannon, who is our course manager, and Bethany Swinehart, my assistant. We are just 4 people among a team of almost 30. Including alumni mentors who are returning students coming back to serve as mentors and coaches that will be running this program. Enrollment is currently open. There's only 2 weeks a year that you can actually purchase it. One was in the spring and the second one is this week. And that enrollment ends Monday night at midnight Pacific time and then doesn't open again until next year. So if this is the program for you, I encourage you to join. And really this session is the one call all during Second Brain Week that we don't have a presentation or an interview or some sort of agenda. And it's really just to answer your questions. So we have a small enough group, I think I can have you unmute yourselves and just ask the question. Often whatever question you have, many others will have the same question or related questions. And that way we can just touch on many things as a group. But I'll let Lauren and Will and Bethany introduce themselves briefly, and then we'll get right to it.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lauren Valdez. I manage our alumni mentor program. I've done a lot of coaching and training with Building a Second Brain, as well as our other Forte Labs courses. So I love being able to work with our mentors and being able to show them how we teach this stuff so that they can work directly with all the students in the course. And we have such an amazing group of mentors. It's crazy. Like, people with YouTube followings of like 1 million people. It's like a really amazing cohort of people who are thought leaders in productivity and who bring these methods to lots of different spaces like parenting or working in nonprofits or working in education. So we're really excited about the diversity of this group of mentors and the different perspectives that are going to come through in this cohort.
Will?
Hey guys, I'm Will, course manager for Building a Second Brain. So I work with Tiago, Lauren, and Bethany and the rest of the mentors to help run the launch of Building a Second Brain and then run the program over the 5 weeks. We're really excited for this cohort. As Lauren alluded to, there's a lot of improvements we've made and there's a lot of great stuff to look forward to. We'll have the biggest group ever of students, but we also think it's going to be the best ever student experience. So I'll be here to answer some questions and look forward to meeting a lot of you in a couple weeks.
Cool. Thank you, Will. And Bethany, please.
Hi, everyone. I'm Bethany Swinehart. I work on the team with Lauren, Tiago, and Will as well, help with a lot of the back end functions and help get the course up and running. And I also work on answering emails. So if you have any questions about billing or anything that we can help you with, I'm here and happy to help. Enjoy the course.
Cool. Great. So that's us. And I think I'm going to ask, as each of you unmute yourselves and ask a question or have a comment or whatever it is, to just briefly introduce yourself. We're a small enough group. I'd love to hear, where you're coming from, what you do, and I guess what has you interested in personal knowledge management or digital note-taking or second brain building. What is it that brought you here today with us? So who wants to be the brave soul and go first? Just go ahead and unmute yourself and let's hear it.
Tiago.
Hey, Jeffrey.
Greetings from the great state of Texas. I have signed up for your course, and I'm particularly interested in how the various ideas I'm accumulating can be linked together to allow me to be creative in new ways that I hadn't heretofore considered. I'm very much into reading and learning, and I want to know how I can use the knowledge I'm gathering to come up with better and new ideas that I can share. But I do also have a question. My question is this. I'm a surgeon and I have a very busy schedule, and it's very likely I will not be live on your sessions most of the time. What is your comment for a class attendee who wants to learn what you have to learn, but often will not be live with you on your Zoom calls?
Yeah, you have the ultimate excuse. Well done. Excuse accepted. Thanks for that, Jeffrey. And can I just ask one thing real quick? What kind of knowledge are you gathering? Is it medical knowledge? Is it your personal reading?
No, actually, it's my wife is a physician, and we are very much focused on health and wellness. And in our space, wellness is not just eating well and exercising. It's the spiritual component you bring to your health and wellness. It's also the financial and economic stability that you have. It's your social connections. It's your contribution to the world. All of these things combine to create a fulfilling life. And so I'm gathering information from a variety of sources. For instance, the book I just finished reading was Atomic Habits. My next read will be probably Sapiens. I'm interested in anything and everything on this subject and gathering it and then sharing it to audiences so they can learn how to take their own lives, perhaps change their habits, and create newer versions of themselves that are far better than they even dreamed they could do.
Wow. Jeez, that's inspiring. I
Just
wish
a
my
small
doctors
approach.
thought that way. Wow, Jeffrey, so cool. I just love that. I love that holistic picture of health and wellness. Oh my gosh. In fact, the the reason, the situation that had me first develop my second brain was a chronic pain condition, a chronic medical condition. I saw every doctor, spent tens of thousands of dollars, every scan, test, diagnostic you can imagine. And after all of it, oh, you seem to be fine. It must be in your head. There was no acknowledgement beyond just the basic physical biology. And that's what kind of sent me into personal growth and meditation and all sorts of other things is I had to find relief from my symptoms. And part of that experience was I had to manage an incredible amount of information for the medical system, right? Insurance paperwork. Every doctor gave me things to read, things to watch, things to do. It was like a part. If you know the U.S. medical system, you know that having any sort of recurring condition is like a part-time job in this country. So thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome. A physician in this day and age is really someone who's like a fireman. We put out the fires. In a brief appointment, we can't possibly educate you on how to take responsibility for your life and live a full, purposeful existence that's healthy. Uh, a lot of it is your responsibility.
Yeah.
So again, I don't want to hog all the time, but how would you respond to the question of mine? What are your thoughts on trying to participate as much as one can in the course, even if one can't be on most of those live Zoom calls?
Jeffrey, I think your question is relevant to a ton of people. Like, can I see show of hands or in the chat? Like, if you are also worried about the time commitment of this class. Okay, awesome. It's a common thing, and so it's something we design around. But you also are touching on something else that I think is very common in our community is people don't have like one job or one profession. They have like a variety and diversity of interests and things that they are following and managing at the same time. And so many people are like versions of artists, content creators, entrepreneurs while having a daytime job and lots of things. And so I think what you're speaking to is relevant to everyone. So I'll let Tiago talk a little bit about how we've designed around that.
Yeah, what I would say is we've really designed the whole thing from the bottom up so that you can take it both what's called synchronously and asynchronously. And you don't have to choose one or the other. So synchronously means live, right? You're on the Zoom call there in person at the same time, sort of as close to in the flesh as you can get with Zoom. Whereas asynchronously just means on your own time, on a delay, whenever you get around to it. And the way I see it is I don't think people need to choose, oh, I'm going to do it 100% live or 100% on my own time. You can sort of move in and out of those two buckets. And in fact, that's how I take online courses, right? What I'll tend to do is the days I have more time or I'm less stressed, or if the topic of that day's session is particularly relevant, then I'll make it work. I'll push things aside, reschedule, stay up late, whatever it takes. But you don't necessarily need to do that I'm going to encourage you to come to every live session, but the ones that you're not able to attend, or you're just too tired that day, or they're too late at night, I know for you Europeans, we're going to have a way to catch up on all of the core live sessions, the ones that I teach twice a week for 5 weeks. We'll have those within 24 hours, more likely sooner than that, but at least within 24 hours, posted to the curriculum forever. So you can catch up the next day if you need to, or a few days later, or the next week, or some people, life just gets really crazy, something comes up, and they have to catch up months later. That's perfectly fine. It's a way to think of it as kind of like we're building a self-paced curriculum live, right? So when you purchase the course and go into the curriculum, you're like, there's nothing here. There's no like data dump that we're just like, okay, you asked for it, boom, there you go. That's kind of overwhelming. In fact, it's just empty. And then each week we are delivering something live, recording it, packaging it, and putting it onto the curriculum for you to catch up on.
And there's a couple specific things we do. Bethany and Will work really hard to break up the hour content into the actual like specific chunks related to the curriculum. So you can go back and just watch like a 10-minute segment. You don't even have to go back and watch the full hour. You can watch the 10 minutes where we talked about this topic and then the 10 minutes that are about another topic. And so it makes it very easy to go back and rewatch just the portions you need. And then for those of you who attend live, but you want to go back and refresh your memory on one specific part that was really relevant to you, you can go back and just watch that segment rather than having to find through the whole hour video what's there or not. And then another new feature of this cohort is that we are doing breakout discussion rooms with mentors, and there's 20 of them across time zones every day of the week. So you will opt into a mentor group based on your time zone, your preference for the person and what programs they use. But if you can't make your specific group, you can just kind of hop into another one on another day of the week if that's going to work better for you. So you have that chance to do the engaged discussion. And this is an improvement from last time around where we had discussion during the live calls. And now the discussions are all going to be facilitated by mentors. Last time they were facilitated by mentors as well, but in the live sessions, now they will be every day of the week. So there's a lot of flexibility with being able to come in and get that element of the community. And then I'll let Will talk a little bit about what happens on Circle in the asynchronously throughout the whole program as well.
So in addition to the live sessions and the recordings that Tiago and Lauren just talked about, there's a forum community. We call it Circle, but it's a really vibrant community. It's sort of, imagine the sort of speed and ephemerality of Slack mixed with the permanence of a traditional like online forum. So it's sort of right in between those two. It's a nice blend. And there'll be public spaces on this forum where you can ask questions, introduce yourself, share tips and tricks about building a second brain. And then everyone who joins a mentor group will be added to a private space on Circle for your mentor group specifically. So there's a bunch of ways to get feedback, connect with others, talk with others on the forum, in addition to all the live content.
I'm Lynn O'Connor, and this will be my second time taking Building a Second Brain. And I have to say, I was really stunned by how much time I wanted to spend on it, and I am still going through the last cohort, and I'm very happy to be doing it again. I think it's something I'll need to, because I'm sort of a pseudo geek. I'm not a real geek. The mechanics of things were really difficult, and I would get stuck, but you can always catch up. It's really an amazing structure. The other thing I want to say is that there's something going on in this class, that we had a women's group and we are still meeting. And not only are we meeting every other week just to check in, but we're doing a weekly review. I took David Allen, GTD, when he first came out, when that book first came out. And I don't think I've ever done a weekly review the way I'm doing it now. It's really amazing. So the benefits are, it's really hard to describe. I'm a clinical psychologist. I'm a professor. I do research. I have a private practice. I'm a pro-social psychotherapist. I write in Psychology Today, I write in Medium, I'm writing a book, and I have a lot of academic articles, but I'm sort of going into a more popular direction. So it's very, very flexible, and it's an amazing, amazing experience. It's a total experience, actually, and the community is just fantastic. The breakout groups, you cannot imagine. People will talk to you no matter what level you're at. It's quite amazing.
Wow, Lynn, thank you so much. And thank you for coming back and being that community. It's really good to have you. It's going to be a lot of fun, even more fun this time.
Something else I think Lynn is speaking to is that there's so much in this conversation around building your second brain that it's kind of like a fire hose with just so much information, and you have to kind of filter for yourself what you can take on now, which is why lots of people, you have access to this course forever, and that's why people come back, because the first time around you're just getting like your base system set up, and then when you come back again you go at a deeper level and then a deeper level, because it's an ongoing process. Your second brain is never like built or finished. It's just deeper levels you can take it to, or different applications. Like I had to start a whole new system when I started a whole new job. I'm about to have a child, so that will be a whole new development that I have to add to my system. So as your life changes, so does your system, and people come back throughout we've had 11 cohorts. So people come back, throughout the years based on what they need and how they want to approach it at a different time.
Yeah, the way I kind of see it, it's not really a course, it's a community that you pay for once. It's a community that has a really high upfront kind of bar that you have to clear, not just in terms of money, but in terms of time and commitment and personal just energy. But then once you're in, you're part of the second brain community. You are a second brainer. So we really designed it from the beginning to grow in that way with, really one of the top sources of value is past students coming back. They have wisdom and lessons from putting these ideas into practice in the real world that we couldn't even think of. One of our alumni mentors is from cohort 2. He's like an OG, and the life experience he's had since, the spring of 2017, using his second brain until now is just priceless. So we're really excited to give those mentors a platform because they have that real world experience. Sometimes it can be easier to relate to them than to me or to us, I know, right? It's maybe like too many skill levels, too many rungs to compare yourself to someone like me who's been doing this for over a decade. I completely get that. Sometimes who you want to learn from is someone who's just one rung on the ladder above you, and that's our mentors. I see Will is answering some questions on the chat, which I appreciate. So I guess we'll just keep hearing from you directly. Who has the next one?
I'm happy to jump in. Hi Tiago, hi everyone. My name's Marlon. I'm from London, and I'm a property consultant, and I've had a growing interest in personal knowledge management and lots of bits and pieces, and I'm very interested in the course and some of the systems that are involved. I think Jeffrey answered one of my main questions that I had. Obviously, it's quite a late start here for us, so I probably won't be able to do most of the sessions live. I also think there could be a lot of crossover and benefit for my company. And I guess some of the questions I have revolve around how you've seen some of these systems incorporated into kind of more corporate worlds. And on that basis, I've pitched the course to my CEO and actually have a meeting with my CEO to try and justify why they think they should pay for it. So I guess my question, I've already got a kind of a thought process around that. I guess my question would be to you, what tips or what suggestions you have, obviously knowing the course a lot better than I do, around the systems and what I could deliver back to the company on that basis. I've already said I could do a note, I could help us to organize our files a bit better, I could present something to the board, but I think it'd be helpful to hear from you what you think about that.
Yeah. Did you see our pre-written like reimbursement template? I
did. And I kind of tweaked it. I think it was slightly more tailored at maybe perhaps different sectors. It's my company is relatively modern, but it's still a bit kind of old school in the property world. And I think that's one of the reasons I think some of the kind of digital management kind of stuff, especially in the world we live in right now, could be super, super important. So I guess I used that as a bit of a base and kind of tweaked it. So I guess it'd be good to know what else, or I guess how you've seen some of the stuff that you teach used in corporate environments.
Yeah, it's a great question. So it's a great idea, by the way. People constantly tell me they're surprised their company will pay for the course because they just asked, right? Like you have to ask to know whether it's the case. I'm gonna drop this link. This is our research page. I don't think it's actually publicly linked, but this is
Okay.
what I send people. It has a whole page of data about the value of professional development, and then it gets more and more specific to the things that we teach, pulling on research studies and newspapers, all these different things. But I'd say that the big picture is, Marlon, there's one route, just framing it around your own personal performance.
Yeah.
That can work, right? It's going to make me more productive, better organized, more efficient, all these things. But a more powerful, even more powerful framing is who you're going to be for your team. Like who are you going to be? There's this concept of a knowledge broker. This is like a whole topic, a whole theme of research is they studied how knowledge flows within organizations, and it doesn't just flow evenly, from node to node in completely uniform ways. There's these people who they call knowledge brokers, who are sort of like the kingpins of knowledge. I'm sure if you think about your own team, you have someone like this, who's the person who always knows where the file is, who knows the thing, who to talk to, who to connect to. And executives and leaders and CEOs tend to know who those people are and to really, really value them. I think the way you can frame it really powerfully is this course is the only training about how to be a knowledge broker that exists, right? Like usually it's just kind of random and just based on your own temperament and personality, but you can't be that knowledge broker unless your own personal knowledge management is figured out, right? Like you have to be the role model and sort of the nexus of that before you're going to extend it to your team. I think that's how I would talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah, just like a concrete example, in my last job, I worked on a program that was in 6 cities. It was a nonprofit program in 6 cities across 4 organizations that were managing it in a $90 million program. And my boss called me the operating control center of the program. Like I just knew everything about all 6 cities and what was happening and where the info was about everything because of my second brain. And people came to me for everything related to the program. And like, once you get to be that person, you're like at the center of so many conversations because people always want to include you. And then I see a comment from Ramses about talking about that experience. Ramses, you wanna jump in there?
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so you mean about being a knowledge broker, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, within my team, when I first entered, we are a center of expertise. So we actually develop policies for 20,000 employees. So we do a lot of research. We create processes. But before I came in, there wasn't really a structure, and knowledge was spread around. So everyone was always trying to get a sense of, okay, why are we pursuing this policy? And people were wasting a lot of time on talking to each other. And by introducing the building a second brain principles, we became a lot more efficient. And when COVID hit, we had already made the transition to centralized knowledge. So we were able to really quickly switch from a more or less always in-person team to working completely remote or distributed. So those principles really helped to enable us to do that, because we could finally work on our own and didn't need other people to find everything all the time.
That's helpful, I think. That's kind of some of the direction I was thinking to try and take it in the fact that, we are kind of working digitally and remotely at the moment, and we don't really have many of the systems and protocols in place. Well, I kind of have my own ones that I create ad hoc, and I've kind of really put my hand up to kind of be a bit of a digital leader within the business. And I think, this is just kind of a way to formalize that and allow everyone to work more effectively, not just me, but probably me to start with, to pull on those resources. And yeah, to be able to kind of, like all of you said, pull things together and stitch things, with systems that we're not currently doing. That's helpful. Thank you.
And then just a logistical note. So in the fall, we do the time zone in the evening in the U.S., and that's to make the live sessions accessible to the Asian Pacific time zones. And in the spring, that's the European time zone that we prioritize. In North America, South America, you kind of could move in between both of those. So if your team, which is in Europe, wants to like be on the live sessions, maybe you're making a pitch now and you do the course for yourself and kind of make that case, and then try to bring in your team in the spring, which will be April, May for the next cohort. And then it's a little bit easier just timing wise for your team. We've also worked with teams where people bring in a team and we have some other things, like maybe there's like, if it's a big enough team, maybe there's like some one-on-one sessions with a coach or Tiago to look at some of the things that the team needs specific help with. So there's lots of things like that we've worked out with different companies.
Great, that's really helpful. Thank you. Wish me luck.
Yeah, this is the Asia Pacific friendly cohort, but also half of our mentors are in Europe.
Not half. I think it's like 4 or 5.
Okay, so yeah, go ahead, Will.
Half of the mentors will have European friendly time zones, whether or not they're in Europe. So half of the mentor sessions will be available for folks in Europe to join.
Okay. Cool. You could also take the course asynchronously this time, and then you'll be invited back to do it again in the spring. That's the advantage of that. So yeah. And by the way, Ramses is one of our alumni mentors. Ramses, maybe you should do one of your breakout sessions on that whole experience that you had and how to do that for your company.
Yeah, that would be cool. I would love to do that.
Cool. Okay, who's next?
Yeah, I might jump in here, Tiago, unless I'm interrupting.
Say your name is Muaz.
Hi, yes, it's Muaz. I'm dialing in from Berlin. I'm also signed up for Cohort 11, so really looking forward to it.
Cool.
Yeah, so Tiago, I had a kind of nuts and bolts question. I was wondering, how do you organize the ideas that you're working on for blog posts or like other kind of like outlets like that? Do you manage them as individual projects, or do you manage them as a list in one of your areas?
I use code: capture, organize, distill, express. The same way I manage absolutely everything. On the buildingasecondbrain.com website, I just added a few days ago a new section. It's interesting because I wasn't comfortable committing to code until I started writing the book. And I really had to work through what is the system, what is the methodology, but I'm now using that as the official 4-part methodology, put it on the website. I'm going to start publishing on it, but that's really it. But that's what the course is about. It's not that I write blog posts differently, than I manage projects, than I manage clients, than I manage courses, than I manage my everyday life. It's all the same system. I was on 2 live streams yesterday with 2 different YouTubers. And this is what we talked about. They wanted to know what were my specialized systems for reading and taking notes and doing this and video making and all these things. But I don't have time for that many specialized systems. I don't think anyone does. I think there's an interesting centralization process that happens here. You know, like just like your first brain is pretty centralized, it all goes here. Your second brain, you want to be just the home of all your knowledge, all the information flowing through your life. And that's why we call it your second brain.
There's something else I want to touch on in your question is people want the nuts and bolts, and Tiago will he'll screen share and show like a Notion page or an Evernote page. He'll give you templates showing exactly how he manages certain things. But at the same time, this course is not about like click here, put this there like Tiago does. It's about discovering what method is going to work best for you. And that's something that people, when they come into this course, they want to know what Tiago does and do it exactly like him. But it's really about designing the right system that works for you, because you may have a different workflow, a different way that things resonate with you. And in your mentor groups, in the circle, like that's where you'll get lots of examples of how people do things differently based on like their time level that they have, based on like their energy. Like I'm someone who's naturally very disorganized and more on the artistic side. So I can't keep my system really rigid. It needs to be very flexible and light. And I rely more on the search functionality than I do on my systems being really well organized. And so everyone has like a different approach. And so I just want you all to keep that in mind as you're coming into this course. Like you're going to hear nuts and bolts, but it's really about uncovering what is going to be the best system that supports your execution rather than trying to follow or copy someone else's system.
Right, thanks.
Hi, I've got a question as well.
Oh,
Go ahead. Is that Ricky?
Yeah, hi, it's Ricky. I got a question as well. I didn't think I could join this. I can't have my camera on. I'm a super extrovert, so normally I would have my camera on. I apologize. So I've got a question because I'm interested in joining this course more because of the transformation aspect and because of the implementation aspect. That's the only two things worth paying for, right? So because information is already there. So I am also one of those people that like being future paced when I'm about to make a decision. I haven't joined yet. I'm in Europe. So one of the reasons why I'm attracted to you guys is because you think very differently from me. So I've been listening to pretty much all of the stuff that you guys have done the last week, and you like to make things intellectually easy for yourself, whereas I'm more the intellectual, like, oh, how hard can I make this for myself? Does that make sense? Yes. So part of the reason why I want to be future paced in terms of that sort of being challenged in terms of how I might think about it differently. Does that mainly happen on the live calls, or is that part of the recorded training? Or where would that happen? Does that make sense what I'm saying?
yeah, it does. Let me ask you a follow-up. What do you mean by transformation? What does that word mean to you?
No, sorry, just in terms of being challenged to think differently. So one of the things I like is back to that Tim Ferriss thing. What would this look like if it was easy? That's almost like very much like a thing, or at least Tiago, that's probably very much how you think. You often say that, how can you snack 10 minutes here or there, do stuff instead of spending 3-4 hours and things. That's the sort of stuff I'm really interested in learning more about, so I can absorb that and start doing more of that rather than thinking spending 3, 4, 5 hours is more, even though that's naturally how historically how I've done it. So what part of the course is where you help people get those sort of changes? Does that make sense? Or challenges rather?
Yeah, it does. I would say it's throughout. Mm-hmm. There's no one module, one unit. This is where you get transformed. It's woven.
No, I'm not after the quick fix. That's not what I mean. I'm just wondering what part of the methodology would it be that you do that?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I don't mean it in that way either. It's really, so what I would say is this course is all about transformation. It's about personal growth. It's about changing how you think, how you see the world, how you think about the future, what you aspire to, how much hope you have for the future. All these things are at the end of the program, what people really say they got out of it. And the note-taking skills are like the icing on the cake, right? The practical stuff always ends up being, oh, that's nice. But what I would say is we're trying to do personal growth concretely. Yes. You know, I would in the past go to workshops or programs and they would just like say a lot of things that you'd feel inspired and maybe even create an emotional high, but then I'd go back to work on Monday and just be like, nothing has really changed in my physical reality.
Like inspiration hangover.
Exactly. It's the worst feeling to come down from that inspiration hangover. Exactly. I love that term. And so I'm just like, what is the base ground level of people's lives? It's their work. Maybe unfortunately, you know, I think as of 2012, at least Americans spend more hours working than sleeping for the first time ever. So maybe we have some things to learn from the Europeans, but your work is your income. It's where you spend many or most of your waking daylight hours. It's often your friends, your social circle. That's why I really have this professional focus for building a second brain. Yes, it can be used to manage your household, your hobbies, whatever, but I'm really passionate and interested in giving people promotions and raises and helping them start businesses and side gigs and extra income streams, all these things. And all of that, any change that you want to make actually starts with knowledge.
I also want to add to this question, which is a really great one, is people don't really come here for the transformation, but it's what happens in this process. And it's not something we like advertise because it's kind of hard to advertise, like buy a transformation, but transformation happens in the actions and in the engagements. So if you just take this course passively and you just sit and listen to the calls, you might get some good like insights, but it's only when you apply it that it's going to make any difference for your life. And there's lots of ways to apply that through the exercises we give you, the homework. There's a capstone project. There's mentor groups you can join. There's active circle communities where you can talk about what you're going through. And all of those are ways for you to take what you're hearing and apply it and engage with it. We want you to engage with the questions and think about how it applies to your life. And we have lots of things, and the mentors are trained in this, in helping you try to unpack or tease out things. Like, for example, the capstone project is a project that you're working on. That's something you want to complete in your life. And we encourage people to pick something that's kind of been on the back burner of your life for a really long time, and you haven't actually made progress on it, but it's something you really care about. And in that process of helping figure out that project, a lot of people uncover like some barriers that are in the way from them taking action on things that they say are important to them. And a lot of those things, it's because we feel like we're actually not good enough. We're kind of afraid to actually do it and put something out there that feels like uncomfortable for us to put a piece of work or knowledge out there with our name on it. That's not in a professional environment where you are paid to do your job, but something you're doing on your own. It might be that, you know, you put others before yourself. It might be that you work too hard. It might be you realizing that like you're not giving enough time to your family and other things. Like all these kinds of things come up for people when they're just trying to pick what project should I focus on for this course. And so that's where a lot of the transformational aspects come up, because we're giving you a framework to ask and stop and ask yourself, like, what is actually really important to you? What do you actually really want to achieve in your life? And when what you're doing in your life is not matched up with what you say is important to you, what's there that's creating that blockage, and let's unpack that. So we do a lot of that in this course as well, in the discussions, and it's really interesting to see what comes up for people in those conversations. So it comes at you in lots of different subtle ways. It's not like the forefront thing, but it's there in the background the whole time.
Yeah, I'm always curious to how people try to bake that into the program. That was just why I'm asking whether you might have different ways of looking at it, because I totally get the methodology. I was just wondering if there was something special that you baked into it, because I was worried about not being on the live calls with Q&As, for example, because I can imagine that's where a lot of this would happen. There's just something so unique about the live calls. That was mainly my worry being in Europe. But I love the mentoring stuff you set up and the groups. I'll definitely make use of that. Thank you so much.
And the live calls, when we started this program, the live calls were like 50 people 3 years ago. And, you know, we can unmute and it could be a dialogue like this. Now the live calls, you know, if we have 1,000 people on the cohort, the live call might have like, you know, anywhere from like 300 to 700 people on a call. And so it's a lot more passive and listening. And that's why we have these other opportunities for you to actively engage and ask questions and be in dialogue with people. And we're unfortunately at the limits of Zoom, because we used to do breakout rooms where you can go out and talk to people, but you can't do more than 50 breakout rooms, so it doesn't really get more private. So that's why we have these other spaces, and it works better for everyone's time zones and things too, and it feels more intimate when you can just ask questions with a smaller group and really share what's happening and how you're applying these things.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question really quickly?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, so my name is Brian Bishop. I'm a rising junior at Pomona College. I've been sort of following, you know, Building a Second Brain for a while now. I actually discovered it from when Rome was doing their, like when you sign up for Rome to be a Rome researcher, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm a student. I don't have enough money to actually pay for the course. But I'm really, really interested in sort of the frameworks that are being used. And I've actually been trying to build my own second brain, right? I've been using a combination of Notion, RemNote, like my photos and like other things like that. And so, yeah, I was just curious, like, if you have any, also just like reading articles that you've written, reading articles that other people have written, going on Twitter, going wherever it is. I was curious, do you have any tips or, you know, for trying to build it on my own, or like any obstacles that you think that I might incur in doing that, or other places that I maybe haven't looked yet that could sort of help me?
Yeah, absolutely. I really appreciate that diligence to find all those things. I would say, Brian, it's 100% possible. I mean, probably 80% of our content is completely free. You know, nearly every post on the blog is free. The podcast is free. We do all these Second Brain Week events for that very reason. We really, you know, we're not just a business where we have this mission to get information management skills into the hands of every person who wants them and is willing to learn them, especially people who don't have, you know, don't have the funds or don't have the opportunities that other people have. What I would say is you pay with time instead of money. That's basically the difference. If you have more money than time, take the course. If you're more on the time side, it's all out there. And really the bottleneck in both cases is action. As Lauren was saying, you know, I've seen people pay a lot of money and take zero action and get zero results. And I've seen people who did it 100% free and really just did the work, put it into their lives, like experimented, you know, trial by fire kind of stuff. And they often have spectacular results. It's really funny. I often get testimonials where the person goes, I had this breakthrough, and all these amazing things. And oh, I haven't taken the course yet, but I'm loving my second brain. And, you know, that's amazing. We're not trying to create this giant fortress of knowledge. In fact, there's no information really, there's no content that's unique to the course that you can only find in the course. It's all out there. Really, we do the course so that we can have a business and continue to produce the content and continue to just keep this all sustainable. So I'd say that's an absolutely viable path and to go for it. I mean, all the resources you mentioned are perfect. I don't think you mentioned the podcast. That's another good one. We're going to be coming out with a second season at some point. My YouTube channel is great. And honestly, some of the best content is by others. So I'd go on Google, on YouTube, and just search some of my terms like intermediate packets and progressive summarization. And other people have created incredible tutorials for those.
The other thing I would mention is, you know, we do have the scholarship program, and it's you know, it's for people like you. And then we also have, this is part of our mission with the mentors, is we want people to take this content. Like, we're like the opposite of a non-disclosure agreement. When you come and work with us, it's like, take everything we know and use it and apply it in your own way. In this round of mentors, I'm really excited because we have a group of educators, and this is something that we want to work on in the future. Is we have someone who's a professor and a department chair. We've had someone who was a dean at Stanford take this course, and we have another mentor who's a retention specialist at a university, and so she teaches GTD and BSAD to her students who are at risk for dropping out, because she knows a lot of times like they just can't manage how to get through their day to day. And we're thinking through what are ways that we can help students have these methods earlier in their lives. Like, we all know, like, if we had something like this in high school and college, it would have been a game changer in how we approach learning and all those things. And so we're thinking through, like, what are other ways we can support that? And in our worldview, it's probably not best for us to go do that, but just to, you know, empower these other people who are in those communities to take this stuff and translate it into that world. And so that's something we're working on with some of the mentors who are in this cohort. We also worked with a group of librarians in Florida, and they're thinking through how do they teach this stuff in the library. And we love libraries. You know, everyone has access to a library. And so that's all like kind of little things on the side we work on, and trying to get this material out to other communities where that content would probably resonate a lot more with someone who's a part of that community than people getting excited by hearing us talk about these things in a very nerdy way.
No, thank you. That's super helpful. And you know, it's kind of interesting too. Like, yeah, libraries, right? Like, I feel like it's a great place, and getting people when they're young, it's also very impactful, right? Because I think like my peers, right? They don't necessarily have the time or money to do this sort of thing. But if they learn when they were like in high school, then their college experience, right? The knowledge that they're learning there, the impact of that is like tenfold. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I was also curious, I guess a little follow-up is there a space sort of for someone like me or other people who are learning on their own to, you know, maybe help with the second brain, being some sort of ambassador or some sort of consultant program, or I don't know, something like that, to keep spreading the message elsewhere, sort of like that Stanford professor that you were talking about?
Nothing really official.
So we have all these unofficial like community ambassadors, and it really is just people approach us and they say, I want to do a workshop in my school or this or that. And they kind of take leadership on that. And then they tell us what they want from us. And what we find is really helpful is when people have like a plan and they have something they want to do and it's very concrete and specific what they're asking from us, we are very supportive of how people do that. Sometimes people contact us and they're just like, I love what you're doing, I want to help. And we're like, okay, but we like, there's nothing specific and it's a lot harder to take action. And so when people contact us, like we have all these meetups that have happened all over the world. And those meetups started with people saying, I want to host a BSAB meetup in my hometown. And they actually started those without ever contacting us. There was like a really great New York meetup, and then it became official, and then a London meetup, and people just started doing that stuff on their own. And there's just lots of ways that you can do that. Or like something I would encourage you to do is like, as you are learning these techniques, Tiago writes a lot and it's very lengthy, and it's, in my worldview, it's a very nerdy, but I would have you take that and translate that to your community, which are young people. And my siblings are in college and they always say this, they're like, I don't read your newsletter, it's too long. And like, young people want short, snappy, to the point. They want videos like TikTok, you know, it's a very different audience and a different way of communicating. And I would encourage you to take what you're learning and what you're discovering in this process for yourself and start sharing that with your own community. And that's actually how Tiago got started doing all of this stuff. He started a reading group in our office 8 years ago where we read Getting Things Done and we talked about it. And that was Tiago's first experience. And that book was written in the 90s or maybe early 2000s. And Tiago was just translating it to the modern world with our team at work. And then that ended up becoming the seed for his first online course. So I would encourage you to just like think about how you would share this in your own community and start doing that. Put it online. You can bring a group together of friends and be like, hey guys, I want to show you how to what I've learned on this. Like whatever way that looks like for you, that's a really excellent way to start you know, engaging with this material and spreading it in a new way.
So I just wanted to show you the, someone was asking about the different groups we have. This is the Circle forum. This is the online discussion forum for the course, actually for all our courses, which you can see here, the different ones. And there's different sections here, but my favorite is the interest groups. These are all 100% student created. I don't even know what some of them mean. Some are in different languages that they've created. We periodically sort of prune this if there's not much activity. So these are all the really active ones. But they're by country, by, you know, interest, by profession, by sort of use case, by related interests. So you can go into these and just see, like this one has 88 members, a whole. So this is just awesome. We just love this stuff. They apparently did a meetup through Zoom of filmmakers using their second brain to create, you know, to create films. This is really what it's all about. Paper people. It's the rebels of the second brain tribe, the people who stubbornly stick to paper, which I just love, with 66 members. This community is really what it's all about.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think having a way to share it to my community specifically, I'm definitely going to try that out, and I'll look into the circle thing too.
And that's a way we choose mentors, is who's in the different communities. Where are they at? One of our mentors just graduated from college a year ago, and she took Building a Second Brain and Rite of Passage right after graduating, you know, being in her first job. And she's been sharing, she has such a different approach to how she thinks about these things. And I actually reached out to her because I saw all the stuff she was posting on Twitter. And I was like, I was like, you should consider applying being a mentor. And at first she was a little like, do I know enough? And I'm like, I've seen a lot of what you've posted and it's awesome. It's like a different take. It's fresh. It's a different approach. And she would resonate with a very different audience than, you know, some other people in the mentorship program.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, John, you want to unmute yourself?
Sure. So I guess I kind of start from looking at the strategy, and it's been 6 or 8 months I've been sort of passively researching knowledge management. And I just came across you maybe a couple months ago, a month or two ago. And so I appreciate a lot of your thought, your thoughtfulness that you put into this. You know, I feel like I'm in the middle of a storm. I'm a big curator, and I have a website. A lot of my files are still paper, and I kind of want to go digital. But as far as the business is concerned, I wrote a technical book in the wireless business. It's actually more about project management than it is technical, but some people think it's technical. It's pretty, there's a lot of lessons in it, 31 chapters, and I'm in the middle of putting it on online training platform. And I started on a platform, and I couldn't really finish it until I voiceovered the whole thing. And I started the voiceover, and then the last 6 or 8 months, and well, until a month or so ago, I've been just curating everything. We moved my website from Bluehost to Google, and we had some problems with the knowledge base there. I had some AI, a dialogue flow, and a knowledge base with a couple hundred articles in it.
John, John, how can I help you? What's your question?
Well, so, I mean, I want to just go digital, you know, get rid of my paper files.
Good.
That kind of like are support for my book and all the stuff in the book.
Yeah.
And I guess you know, I will, from your website, and I will drill down into that from the top.
Good.
And I think that'll give me some guidance. And mainly I think the concept of going digital, of taking my files, and what do I do? I mean, if I scan them and I didn't highlight or anything, I mean, then I have to do tags for them, or kind of, is that the best way to start for somebody to go digital, kind of with get rid of their.
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's a huge transition, especially for people who've done great work and great thinking in the paper world, which really is a different world, right? We're gonna have time to talk about this in the course. It's one of the most common questions. What I would say is there are decent solutions, and they're always lossy. By lossy, I mean the transition is never perfect. You lose some functionality, you lose some fidelity, but then you gain things too. For example, OCR, optical character recognition, has come so far that you can search all those scanned documents in a way that was never possible before. I just gives me such a thrill when I do a search and it finds my handwritten, you know, word on page 57 of one of my old paper notebooks in Evernote. But basically, yes, that is a topic we're going to cover, probably not in the main core live sessions, but in a side one.
Another thing I would add is people want to think about their second brain as this massive project. Like, I'm just going to sit and work really hard on this like all weekend. That's not how this course works. It really is like planting seeds in a garden and adding layers over time. And so it may not be important for you to digitize every single thing that you have at one time, but maybe there's like some select pieces of things where it's really important to go digital, and you just pick a couple of those things and you focus on that, and the other stuff can wait till later. And so what we encourage a lot of people to do is focus on like what is most critical and actionable in your life, make that stuff a part of the system, and then the old stuff, you may not ever add it to your system. Maybe it just stays in an old way and everything new is in a new way. And then maybe you bring it in over time, like as you need it.
Yeah, that's kind of why I mentioned strategy first.
Good. Yeah, you know, there's something funny. There's something funny when
deciding what I want to.
Yeah.
My approach, you know, I don't want to get into the weeds until the brain actually knows, you know, how it wants to orchestrate things.
Yeah, that's smart. And in fact, another general recommendation is to not do the migration en masse, even moving from one digital program to another, like say from Evernote to Roam. everyone I've heard from who dumped all their Evernote notes into Roam had a really hard time, because even two digital programs, it's lossy. It's different data structures with different functionality, with different qualities. So I think you have to have a strategy and do it, like Lauren was saying, in pieces. One project at a time, one part of your life at a time. And often when you do that, you find a lot of it never even needs to be transitioned. That was a previous chapter in your life. You sort of archive it away for reference, but life changes, life moves forward. So I think it's a very worthy question to be thinking about.
Well, and I suppose I could like create reference indexes for myself that all the paper doesn't go in, but the second brain kind of has an index of, that's where to look.
Another interesting approach. Yeah, I have like reference numbers, so it comes up in search, and then you can go find it in the archives if you need to. Love it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Tiago, hi Lauren.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Hi. My name is June. I go by the middle part of my name. So I'm a medical student here in Cincinnati, and I must say it's a pleasure to see actually one of my mentors in the audience. Hello, Dr. Kelly. So medicine has been impacted a lot by COVID, whether it's research or mobilizing telemedicine. Can you talk a little bit about how building a second brain has helped like medical students or even professors streamline their studies, their research, or their work? In particular, I guess I'd be interested in learning how like the dean kind of uses BASB in his work.
You mean the Stanford dean?
Yes.
Yeah. You said you were a medical student, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, we've had a great uptake in the medical community. Have you seen the case study on my blog about the oncologist at the Mayo Clinic?
Right. I did see that. The breast cancer surgeon or oncologist, right?
Yes, that's a great example. He's been able to spend 20, 30, 40% more of his time actually interacting with patients because his notes are summarized and organized. Like, what is the impact of that? It's difficult to quantify. I think if I had to say why the medical community has taken to it, it's, people who consume and manage a lot of information is sort of the market, is the audience for this course, but especially people at the intersection who have to take action on that information, right? If there's no urgency and deadlines and timelines to what you're doing, then efficiency and the whole productivity aspect, which is a huge part of this, it's not just knowledge management, it's knowledge management in a hurry. It's knowledge management on a budget, right? If you don't have time constraints, then you just do kind of how it's always been done. But people we've had a lot of pilots, a lot of surgeons and medical professionals, a lot of engineers, people at the intersection of knowledge and action. And I think the medical profession definitely, it's a life and death situation there, right? Like one fact or insight or piece of data that you are able to surface and be aware of could be the deciding factor in someone's case, right?
And I think
do you know of any, do you know of any like communities for medical students or anything like that? Sorry to interrupt you, Lauren.
I don't know specifically. On Circle, there is an academic community, and it's a lot of professors, researchers, grad students, and they write a lot about kind of like citing and their papers and publishing. And they think about how they apply it in academia. But I don't know if we've seen an official like medical community pop up. But then again, we might not know because a lot of these things happen without our involvement at all.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, June. We're going to stay just a few minutes after the hour, but are there any courses specifically related to just the logistics of the course? Anything about dates, about how the live sessions are run, about what's included as part of the purchase? If there's anyone who's kind of on the cusp, you have basically 4 days to decide until next year. So I want to focus on anything that we can clarify or shed light on for you.
Hi, my name is Olga Mikerina. I live in Chicago, and I work for a big corporations, and they actually require, in order to cover the course, like a certificate of completion.
Yes.
We provide those.
We do, yeah. We have a new invoicing system, so we can put any information about your company you need in that. And then also, when you complete the last lesson, there will be a customized certificate of completion that has a unique identifier, which means if someone needs to verify or make sure that it's legitimate, they can check with us. We can verify that. So yes.
And it will have my name and the course name, course and the date, right?
Exactly. I would want to check on exactly what it contains, but I'm almost certain your name, the course name, I'm pretty sure it includes the company name. If you have specific requirements, just let us know.
All right.
We can customize it.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. It's a totally logistical question, but important one.
It is. No, it's really important. You know, if someone's going to pay for this, right? I'm just amazed that people don't ask or don't, you know, pitch it to their bosses or their companies. Think about the company, the investment your company, your employer makes in you. You know, and most modern progressive companies will either have an existing professional development stipend, or if they don't have it officially, you can convince them. You got to like go to bat for it. You have to like make a pitch. You have to like convince them, because it's your future. You know, you're the one that's going to take the second brain with you when you leave the organization. So you really want to take advantage of the resources inside there before you go elsewhere. Right,
absolutely. Or you just have to fit it to the existing policy, because a lot of big companies, they have programs, but you know, sometimes these programs are designed for more of a university level courses, right? And so when you try to do something new and different, then you don't necessarily fit in. So you just have to make sure it fits back into whatever the parameters are.
Exactly.
Yep.
They just want to make sure you're not doing some crazy online scam, right? I completely.
Right. Exactly.
it makes sense.
Right. Thank you.
Cool. Anything else? Will, do you have any comments? I know you've been super active in the chat. Thank you for that.
Yeah, it was just a comment on the medical professionals. Roger had a statement about how this is really important for the medical community, and it was just saying that's a great opportunity for an interest group, right? The distinction of these interest groups that Tiago showed in the forum, right? The one about people in Japan or people into philosophy or what have you, those are bottom-up, student created, right? We've learned designing these communities that at first we sort of wanted to design everything ourselves, like a top-down design, but we realized there has to be this balance between how much we design versus how much community you let the members create themselves. And so that medical group would be a perfect example of a group that could be created, this cohort, and really thrive. And imagine people on 5 or 6 continents, all in the medical profession, trading notes and sharing ideas about how to implement these ideas in your profession. It's just really exciting to think about. So I'd encourage you guys to create something like that.
Yeah, I loved, Frank, this is one of the most exciting things. We've been working with a colleague in the UK on your second brain snapshot. So we finally developed a really, really cool evaluation of your second brain skills. It's like a spider graph. It's a circular graph, which has like 10-point scales radiating out from the center, where you rate, basically it's a 12-point evaluation, self-rated evaluation, just based on how you're working with and how effective your second brain is. So what we're going to do is you take an initiation survey at the start of the course. That's sort of the before, just your most honest, straightforward answers. And then you take it again at the end, and you can literally see like the before graph and the after graph. You can see exactly in which dimensions you've improved the most, which is cause for celebration. And then you can also see the dimensions where you didn't improve as much. And we can give you then targeted recommendations for what to take on after the course, things to read, other courses of ours, courses that we don't even teach, YouTube videos. Like that before and after kind of 2-part evaluation is just, it's something that doesn't exist out there. We had to invent it. It took us 3 years based on the experience of all our students. But I'm pretty excited about that.
Perfect answer. Thanks. That hits it right on the nail on the head. And the second question is the post taking the course. When I look at all this, I really see 2 drivers: improvement in productivity and improvement in creativity. At the end of the day, keep it simple. Those are the 2 things that for me are most important. How would you look at those post having taken the course?
Yeah, I love that. And I agree. It's the intersection of creativity and productivity. It's creative productivity or productive creativity, right? And I think what I would say is, in this course, we're collapsing the distinction. You know, people have productivity in this more like left brain bucket, that's efficiency, that's science, and then creativity in the right brain bucket, that's imagination and inspiration. And I actually think the left brain, right brain sort of dichotomy is one of the most damaging things in society. It's just crazy. It has us put ourselves in buckets that I can only be creative or get things done. And you see that in school, you see that in companies where some people are the creative types in companies and other people are not allowed to be creatives. It's really one of the craziest, weird things that we've made up as a society. And I think the way that people sort of, you have to discover it for yourself. I can't just tell you, you have to kind of see it in your own life. The way you see that is when you really see for yourself that knowledge is the most productive thing there is. When you see that, you know, people ask you the same question, probably depending on your role, again and again and again and again, you can write a memo or a blog post or a template or even just a saved email. And that is knowledge. That's your life experience, your knowledge, and it saves you incredible amounts of time. Once you sort of see that in action, you want to convert as much of what you do into knowledge that people can consume on their own, that you don't have to be there for, right? Whether it's public on a blog or just something you send to them in the moment, there's no going back. There's no going back. It's kind of like the difference between active income and passive income. Once you've made your first dollar of passive income, you know, you've made money while you sleep, basically. It completely changes your view of how you spend your time. We're doing that with knowledge. There's like ways of sharing your knowledge that people can consume it passively, which then completely frees up your time. I think that's one of the deepest mindset shifts.
Hi, can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, Kimberly, last question.
Yeah, thanks. I'm sorry. I'm like super late to this. And I was like, oh, I have a few minutes. So I joined. I've been following you for some time, learned about you through a couple of people, and I've taken, read and followed. And so if you could do like a 2-second overview again, because I came on late, I'm going to watch a replay, but any like major piece that I missed, or because I'm thinking I'm just going to go ahead and join because I want to do this. But I'm a practicing attorney, and knowledge to action, it is every day. And so I would love to just get high level real quick if there's anything that I missed that maybe I wouldn't have gotten from the marketing materials. And then two, if, have you worked with other attorneys, and like how have you found they've really unlocked so much from using your methodology?
Yeah, there's been a number of attorneys. My attorney is he's always like, how are you so prepared for our meetings? And then I started telling him about my second brain, and it's just like 5 minutes before our meetings that I just distill, that's the D in code. I just distill down our last call notes into an agenda for the next call. But in general, for what you missed, I'd say watch the recording. We talked about a lot of different topics, some very, very niche. The other thing is check out the FAQs. I'm pretty sure everything we talked about today is addressed in some way in the FAQs, which you can find on buildingasecondbrain.com. You kind of have to scroll down a little bit. Or if it's not answered, just email Will, courses@fortelabs.co. And he's responsible for that. What else? Yeah, any specific thing you wanted to hear come to mind?
I think just a recap of some of the main things we talked about, the time commitment and how to use this course if you can't even be on the live calls, or you're really busy with your schedule, so you're kind of in and out. So we talked about the approach of that. We also talked about kind of some of the deeper transformational aspects and things that come up in this course around people trying to define what they really want to focus their energy and time on, rather than just kind of being in the rat race and doing just to do. And a lot of that stuff comes out in this course as well. We talked about some of the logistics, so that we covered a broad range of topics that you can go back and find in those other things we talked about.
Yeah, that's great. And I'm glad you just did that recap, because that not just doing just to do is important. And so what I've liked about like the at least high level, what I've been learning from being a part of your communities is that I want to take, one of my strengths is input and learner. And those kids really get to taking in a lot of information. And so I want to be able to make those decisions too while I'm also utilizing this methodology. So I've started it without your guidance. And so getting your guidance would be really awesome. So I'm excited. I'll be joining. So that's all good. I got
cool.
that one answer helped. So thanks.
Good to have you. Okay, everyone, this has been super fun. It's so exciting to start getting to meet some of you that are going to be joining us. It's going to be a wild ride. It's going to be crazy. And I encourage you to join. If this is something that speaks to you, that resonates with you, this is the enrollment week. This is your chance. Closes midnight Pacific time on Monday, and then we kick off the 31st, and it goes for 5 weeks. Awesome. And we'll have this recording posted to the Second Brain Week page. And please email us if there's anything we can help you with. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.